Did you know that over 70% of men over 60 still maintain an active sexual interest? However, many feel ashamed to talk about it, especially when the topic is masturbation. The truth is that this natural practice can be essential for maintaining sexual health in later years. Let's break this taboo and explore how masturbation influences the physical and mental well-being of mature men. You'll discover why doctors should talk more about this subject and how this practice can prevent issues like erectile dysfunction and depression. If you want to better understand your sexuality or help someone close to you, this content is essential. The evolution of men's sexual health is a complex and fascinating process that many are unaware of. Contrary to popular myths, sexual desire does not disappear with aging, but transforms. Scientific research shows that sexuality remains active and significant for many men, even after the age of 60. Understanding these changes requires a broad and prejudice-free perspective. The male body remains capable of experiencing pleasure and sexual satisfaction, although the physiological mechanisms may undergo subtle changes. Hormonal shifts, for example, do not signify an end, but rather a redefinition of sexual experience. Society often marginalizes sexuality and maturity, creating invisible barriers that stifle desire and sexual expression in older men. This limiting perspective has profound consequences on self-esteem and emotional health, leaving many feeling invisible or inadequate. Doctors and sexual health experts have emphasized the importance of maintaining an active and healthy sexual life during aging. Sexual activity is not limited to the physical act alone, but involves connection, pleasure, and overall well-being. Masturbation emerges as a powerful tool for maintaining this sexual health. The benefits go far beyond momentary pleasure. Regular sexual stimulation contributes to strengthening the immune system, improves blood circulation, and helps prevent age-related dysfunctions. Hormones released during sexual activity can reduce stress levels and promote a sense of well-being. It is important to emphasize that every body is unique, and sexual experiences in maturity vary significantly. There is no standard model or a correct way to experience sexuality. What matters most is respecting one's own limits, desires, and bodily possibilities. Sexual education for mature men needs to be more comprehensive and free of prejudice. Understanding the changes in one's own body, accepting its new configurations, and celebrating sexuality as an essential dimension of human existence represents a path to empowerment and self-awareness. Therefore, masturbation should not be seen as a taboo or something shameful, but as a natural practice of self-care and maintaining overall health. It is an act of self-love, a reconnection with the body and one's own desires. Masturbation in later life represents a fundamental dimension of male sexual health, offering benefits that go beyond momentary pleasure. Mature men need to understand that this natural practice significantly contributes to their physical and psychological well-being. From a physiological perspective, regular sexual stimulation helps maintain the health of penile tissues, preventing issues such as atrophy and erectile dysfunction. Sexual activity, even when solitary, stimulates blood flow, maintaining the elasticity and functionality of reproductive organs. Neurologically, masturbation triggers the release of essential neurotransmitters such as dopamine and serotonin. These hormones not only provide an immediate sensation of pleasure, but also reduce stress levels, improve mood, and contribute to better sleep quality. From a cardiovascular perspective, sexual activity represents a mild form of physical exercise that can benefit older men. The temporary increase in heart rate and muscle activation serves as a subtle way to stay active, especially for those with reduced mobility. The psychological dimension cannot be underestimated. Masturbation offers an opportunity for self-discovery, allowing mature men to understand their sexual needs and desires without external pressures. This practice can restore self-esteem and combat feelings of inadequacy, often associated with aging. It is important to emphasize that this activity does not replace emotional relationships, but it can be a healthy strategy for individuals without partners or with physical limitations. Sexuality remains an essential component of human identity, regardless of age. Doctors and sexuality experts have been emphasizing the importance of demystifying this topic, Shame and silence are barriers that need to be deconstructed, allowing older men to understand and accept their sexuality as a natural part of human development. Masturbation, therefore, stands as a valuable resource for maintaining overall health, combining physical, emotional, and psychological benefits. It represents an act of self-care and reconnection with one's own body, free from stigma and prejudice. The issue of pornography addiction presents a complex and sensitive challenge for mature men in the contemporary digital world. With instant access to sexual content online, many individuals may develop consumption patterns that exceed healthy limits, turning a natural practice into compulsive behavior. The ease of navigating pornographic websites can create subtle psychological traps. Men seeking sexual satisfaction may gradually replace real intimacy with virtual experiences, building unrealistic expectations about sexuality. These distorted representations often distance individuals from genuine emotional connections, limiting their ability to experience authentic pleasure. Recognizing signs of addiction requires self-awareness and honesty. When masturbation becomes hostage to pornographic content, losing its natural dimension of self-care, the first warning sign emerges. Symptoms such as an increasing need for more intense stimuli, social isolation, and feelings of guilt after consumption may indicate problematic patterns. Pornography can function as an escape mechanism, especially for mature men dealing with loneliness, declining self-esteem, or emotional difficulties. The digital environment offers an illusory comfort zone where control and satisfaction seem instantaneous and without apparent consequences. It's important to emphasize that this is not about condemning masturbation or the occasional consumption of erotic material, but rather understanding healthy boundaries. The key lies in awareness and balance. When sexual behavior begins to significantly interfere with quality of life, harming relationships, work, or psychological well-being, it becomes essential to seek professional help. Strategies to break compulsive cycles include establishing alternative routines, practicing mindfulness, seeking specialized therapy, and reconnecting with personal interests. Healthy sexuality does not need to be confined to virtual standards, but should be integrated into genuine bodily and emotional experiences. Building a respectful relationship with yourself, free from judgment, allows for the redefinition of sexual practices. Masturbation can return to its original role, a natural expression of desire, self-care, and connection with oneself, away from technological dependencies that distort the human sexual experience. Maintaining penile health in maturity represents a complex and often overlooked challenge. The phenomenon known as penile disuse emerges as a physiological reality that can significantly compromise the sexual well-being of mature men. The absence of regular stimulation can lead to tissue atrophy, reducing the elasticity and functionality of the reproductive organs. Contemporary scientific studies show that regular sexual stimulation, even if individual, serves as a fundamental strategy to preserve the integrity of penile tissues. Masturbation, in this context, presents itself as a natural therapeutic resource capable of preventing the decline of sexual functions. The mechanisms involved in this process are fascinating. When sexual stimulation occurs, regardless of the source, the body triggers a series of physiological responses that keep tissues active and healthy. Blood flow is intensified, muscles are exercised, and nerve sensitivity is preserved. Research reveals that men who maintain periodic sexual stimulation practices are less likely to develop early erectile dysfunctions. Sexual activity, whether solitary or shared, represents a bodily exercise that goes far beyond momentary pleasure. Maintaining penile elasticity does not depend solely on frequency, but also on the quality of stimulation. Understanding one's own body, respecting its limits and desires, becomes an essential strategy for mature men who wish to preserve their sexual health. Specialist doctors have emphasized the importance of demystifying this topic. Masturbation should not be understood as a taboo, but as a natural practice of self-care. It represents a way of connecting with oneself, of recognizing one's own bodily needs and potentials. It is crucial that men understand that sexuality does not have an expiration date. Bodily changes are natural and do not signify the end of sexual life, but rather its redefinition. Regular sexual stimulation can be a powerful ally against the premature aging of reproductive organs. The journey of sexual self-discovery in maturity is filled with discoveries and possibilities. Every body has its uniqueness, its own rhythms and needs. Respecting this individuality is the first step toward a fulfilling and healthy sexual life, regardless of age. Social taboos surrounding male sexuality in maturity represent invisible barriers that stifle natural expressions of desire and well-being. Our society has built walls of silence and prejudice that trap mature men in limiting narratives about sexuality, preventing them from fully experiencing their intimate lives. These cultural stigmas often turn masturbation into a shameful topic, something to be hidden and never openly discussed. Older men are systematically desexualized, as if sexual desire expired along with youth. This discriminatory perspective has profound consequences on self-esteem and emotional health, creating feelings of inadequacy and invisibility. The predominant culture infantilizes and disqualifies sexuality in old age, as if pleasure were an exclusive privilege of the young. This restrictive view produces a hostile environment where mature men feel embarrassed to express their emotional and sexual needs. The result is a systematic silencing that fuels loneliness and isolation. Breaking these barriers requires courage and willingness to confront deep-rooted prejudices. Openly discussing sexuality with friends, family, or healthcare professionals can be a powerful strategy to deconstruct stereotypes. Each conversation represents a spark of transformation, a movement of resistance against oppressive narratives. Sexual education emerges as an essential tool in this process of deconstruction. When scientific and honest information replaces myths and shame, space opens up for understanding and acceptance. Mature men need to understand that their sexuality remains a legitimate and valuable component of their identity. Support groups, lectures, and discussion circles can serve as safe environments for sharing experiences. In these spaces, the exchange of life experiences allows men to feel welcomed and realize that their concerns are shared by many others. Doctors, therapists, and mental health professionals play a crucial role in deconstructing these taboos. By adopting a welcoming and educational approach, they can help mature men reframe their relationship with sexuality, promoting a broader and more respectful perspective. Cultural transformation depends on small daily gestures, frank conversations, deconstruction of prejudices, and valuing the diversity of sexual experiences. Every shared story, every barrier broken down, represents a step toward a more inclusive and understanding society. The journey of sexual self-discovery transcends age limits, revealing itself as a deeply personal and transformative experience. When we talk about masturbation for mature men, we are addressing much more than a physical practice. It is a powerful tool for connecting with oneself. Knowing your own body represents an act of courage and wisdom. In maturity, this self-exploration takes on even more significant contours, allowing men to understand their nuances, desires, and intimate possibilities without external judgment. Physical transformations do not mean limitation, but rather redefinition. Every touch, every sensation becomes an opportunity for rediscovery. Masturbation emerges as a channel of communication with oneself, where pleasure does not depend solely on performance or social expectations. It is interesting to observe how sexual self-awareness transcends merely physical dimensions. It involves emotional understanding, acceptance of bodily changes, and appreciation of one's sexual identity. Mature men may find in this practice a path to restoring self-esteem and reconnecting with their wholeness. The absence of partners does not represent an obstacle to experiencing sexual satisfaction. On the contrary, it can be an invitation to explore sensations individually, without external pressures or normative standards. Masturbation establishes itself as a territory of freedom and personal discovery. It is important to emphasize that there is no single model or correct standard. Each body has its uniqueness, its own rhythms and needs. Respecting this individuality means fully embracing oneself, celebrating sexual potential regardless of age. Doctors and therapists have highlighted how sexual self-awareness can be therapeutic. It allows one to understand boundaries, identify pleasure zones, and maintain the health of reproductive organs through regular stimulation. The journey of sexual self-discovery in maturity invites a generous and loving gaze towards oneself. It represents a movement of resistance against narratives that desexualize older men, reaffirming that desire has no expiration date. Each man carries a unique story, filled with potentialities and possibilities. In this context, masturbation emerges as a tool for self-care, celebration, and reconnection with one's own sexual essence. Masturbation, when practiced compulsively, can represent a significant challenge for mature men. Identifying the signs that this practice has turned into a problematic behavior requires attention and careful self-reflection. A first relevant indicator arises when masturbation begins to drastically interfere with social and professional life. If a man starts skipping meetups with friends, important commitments, or meaningful activities to dedicate himself exclusively to solitary sexual practice, this could be a concerning sign of dependency. Emotional aspects also need to be observed with sensitivity. Intense feelings of guilt, shame, or regret after masturbation suggest that this practice has ceased to be a natural expression of sexuality and has instead become a source of psychological distress. When self-esteem is compromised and pleasure is replaced by negative emotions, it is crucial to engage in honest self-reflection. The frequency and intensity can also reveal dysfunctional patterns. If masturbation has become an obsessive activity, occupying a significant portion of time and thoughts, it has likely crossed the boundaries of a healthy practice. The increasing need for more intense stimuli to achieve satisfaction may indicate a compulsive cycle. Another important aspect is the impact on relationships. When masturbation becomes a complete substitute for emotional connections, creating emotional isolation, it raises a red flag. Healthy sexuality should complement, not replace, meaningful human interactions. The dependency on pornographic content also deserves special attention. If masturbation has become entirely tied to the consumption of virtual material, losing its natural dimension of sexual expression, it may indicate a deeper issue. Recognizing these signs does not mean self-condemnation, but represents a courageous first step towards seeking balance. Mental health professionals can offer essential support on this journey of self-discovery and recovery. The key lies in awareness, self-acceptance, and the willingness to transform. Masturbation can once again become a natural practice of self-care, free from compulsions and harmful patterns. Masturbation in maturity represents more than just an isolated sexual practice. It is an essential act of self-care and connection with oneself. Older men need to understand that sexuality remains alive and meaningful, regardless of bodily changes. Breaking the silence on this topic means restoring sexual dignity and promoting overall well-being. Each individual carries a unique story of desire and potential, deserving respect and support on their journey of self-discovery. Sexuality has no expiration date, but is continuously redefined.